He and his son lived in a subway restroom. Every time someone knocked on the door, he'd rush to cover his son's ears, then use his foot to brace the door shut. Life was unbearably hard, but he didn't want his son to see how cruel the world could be. This is based on a true story. It began in 1981, during the U.S. economic crisis. The world split into on one side were the rich in luxury cars, and on the other, the homeless starving on the streets. Chris, unemployed for months, had less than $200 left. 3 months behind on rent, his child could only attend the cheapest, most rundown school. His wife worked jobs to keep the family afloat, but the stress left her exhausted and irritable. All this misfortune started when Chris spent all their savings on medical devices, hoping to flip them for a profit only to find no one would buy. Still, he carried the machines around every day, trying to sell them to doctors. Even with a forced smile, his fatigue was visible. He hadn't smiled for real in a long time until one day. Passing an office building, he noticed everyone looked genuinely happy. He asked a man in a luxury car what he did for a living. "Stockbroker," the man replied. "You don't need a high degree. Just be good at math and know how to talk to people." It sounded simple enough. Chris had always been great at math, and sales had sharpened his people skills. He decided to apply for an internship at a securities firm. But with no degree or experience, his resume went nowhere. So, he camped outside the office for a month, waiting for the HR manager. When the manager finally appeared, Chris rushed to introduce himself. The manager was in a hurry and brushed him off, heading for a taxi. Thinking fast, Chris said they were headed in the same direction and asked to ride along. In the car, he tried to pitch himself, but the manager barely looked at him, too busy playing with a Rubik's Cube. "No one can solve this thing," the manager said. Chris claimed he could, and that he'd finish it before they arrived. He took the cube, studied it, and began turning it while explaining the logic. First one side was complete, then another. The manager, now intrigued, watched closely. Chris kept going more focused with every twist. This was his only shot. By the time they reached their destination, all 6 sides were solved. The manager was stunned. Most math professors took over 30 minutes. Chris did it. But then he realized the manager hadn't paid the taxi fare. Looking at the meter, Chris told the driver to turn back. At a red light, he grabbed his machine from the back seat and bolted, apologizing as he ran. The driver chased him all the way to the subway. As the train doors began to close, Chris barely made it inside, but the machine was stuck outside. He clung to it desperately, unwilling to let go. That one device was worth a month of food. His life felt like a joke, but he had to keep going. Then came another blow. His wife called to say she was leaving him and taking their son. Chris ran through rain and sweat to get home. He didn't even have time to cry. When he arrived, they were already gone. He collapsed in the dark, defeated. The next morning, he waited outside the kindergarten and begged his wife, but she refused to speak to him. Desperate, Chris took his son back home. Then the landlord came. Chris was too far behind on rent. He begged for a week of leniency and offered to repaint the apartment in exchange. The landlord agreed. That same day, the HR manager finally called. Chris had an interview. The next morning, while painting, a knock came. It was the police. Chris hadn't paid parking tickets in ages. Even if he paid everything now, he'd